Sorry, I can't give you anything stronger for the pain, but I can't risk lowering your blood pressure. I looked at my hand, which was swollen and a rather unpleasant shade of blue. So did the Roman 4 coming out of the inside of my elbow. It's okay, doctor. I know. I will survive, although the pain is hellish. Yes, we have a polyvalent antidote for Glodius venom. She's on her way. I'll have Karen do a skin test and start in Roman 4. Who bit you? This brought a smile to my face, albeit a small one. Only Dr. Kaiju West knew our snakes well enough to recognize them by name. Tenchai, I replied. Ryoko is shedding her skin. I didn't think Tenchai was aggressive. What happened? He was right. Tenchai wasn't aggressive. He was the calmest of the poisonous snakes. Japanese mamushi, still dangerous, but not particularly excitable. Usually, however, there are some things that no snake will tolerate. One of the officers decided to take a flash photo. He became furious. Oh my God, even Dr. Gizwest knew not to use bright lights near a snake. They do not have eyelids, and their eyes are sensitive. How long do you think his fangs are? About 1/4 of an inch, not too bad. I knew what he was getting at. The bite was above the wrist on the forearm. There's enough muscle tissue there that the length of Tenchai's fangs wasn't an issue. The bite hit the muscle, but not deep. Fine. This means there is no threat to deep tissue. Is your tetanus profile up to date? This made me laugh. Damn, Doc, you should know. You vaccinated me last month when that big snake bit me. Danny simply shook his head. Glenn, you become a regular here. If you ever get tired of being a herpetologist, you can probably get a good job as a pincushion. Ha ha, I grumbled. Very funny. After putting my card down and returning the pen to my pocket, the doctor smiled. Thought you needed a good laugh. You'll probably find this useful. Clint called. He's on his way. Well, I need to see what else is going on here. Karen will bring the antidote soon. As soon as she starts it, we will move you to the ward. I'm going to put you on the hemolysis protocol, so you'll be with us for 2 or 3 days. See you at the top. I waved to him and then lay down on the pillow. Those damn hospital beds in the emergency department must have been designed by the Marquis de Sade, but there wasn't much that could be done about it. Besides, it was probably more convenient than the meeting with client that awaited me. For those wondering, I don't just play with venomous snakes. My name is Glenn Morris, and I am the assistant curator of reptiles at the Memphis Zoo. One of my responsibilities is to train first responders, medical personnel, and military personnel in snake identification and snakebite treatment. We try to bring a calm animal to all presentations, but accidents do happen. Tenchai is my 4th bite with venom injection. This is starting to get boring. As Dr. Bene West said, I am a herpetologist. Herpetology is a vast field covering reptiles, amphibians, and birds. Bird specialists are not actually considered herpetologists, they are ornithologists. Technically, birds are reptiles, but we consider them to be distant relatives, even though they are part of this group. The same goes for amphibians. Still, the area is huge. Most of us have at least a passing familiarity with all reptiles, but there are very few true generalists among us. Most of us belong to one of 4 subdomains. Crocodilonologists, as the name suggests, work with crocodiles, alligators, gharials, and caimans. Better for them than for me. Too big, too angry. This area contains the smallest group of herpetologists. Testudinologists work with turtles, tortillas, and terrafines. This is one of my brother's specialties. He is also an arachnologist. Damn idiot. He does, however, have some very beautiful tarantulas. This is another small group among us. The second largest area is the monitor lizard. These people specialize in lizards. Interesting creatures. This could probably be considered my secondary area. And no, I don't work with Komodo dragons. Someone else can tinker with them, thanks. I have one pet lizard, Eurymastix, the last living dinosaur in the world. Beautiful animals, mine is almost electric blue. For those who remember Jurassic Park, The Euros are true vegetarians. Kind and friendly, they are legal family pets. They have a massive body and reach a maximum length of 2 feet. Some very large specimens exceed 3 feet. The largest field to which I belong is serpentology. These are snakes. I love these little creatures. The variety of species is endless, and no two snakes are alike, even within the same species. Each has its own character, just like cats. I specialize in rat snakes, but also love the rear-eating species. I got lucky after getting my master's degree. This work was available, and I knew the curator. I was accepted immediately. It was Clint Walker, the handler, and my boss. I knew he was going to scold me. He didn't like my habit of handling hot snakes with only Kevlar-lined gloves. I think he was right, but that won't stop me. Plus, if I was working with a really dangerous snake, say a mamba, I would use a clear container and the snake would never come out of it. My 4 bites were all accidental, and they were all from fairly harmless snakes. Tenchai's bite was probably the worst of them all. Others were from moccasin, pygmy rattlesnake, and cascabel. On the other hand, she could be the worst. A large South American rattlesnake with neurotoxic venom put me in intensive care for 2 weeks. Yes, it was a bad bite. Karen appeared with the antidote a few minutes later. While she was doing the skin test, we talked about her recent vacation. She and her husband were scuba divers, so they went to the Bahamas and explored the small reefs there. It sounded fun, but I don't really like swimming. The skin test came back normal, so she started pouring a small packet into the Roman 4. Antidotes are not given by injection. The risk of an allergic reaction is too great. The dropper can be turned off. There's nothing you can do about the injection. Given your weight, she told me, we will start with 4 ampoules. This will take about 4 hours. Then we'll draw blood and see if more is needed. There is no visible necrosis, so my guess is that this will be enough. I was getting really uncomfortable in that emergency room bed. Even a hospital bed, an actual bed in a hospital room, was starting to sound appealing. When do you think I will be transferred to the ward? She logged into the terminal next to her bed and began searching for something. It looks like you have already been assigned a room, 434. As soon as Dr. Disses West gives us the go-ahead, you will be transferred. I would say within an hour. I smiled subtly at her. The day was starting to wear me down. The dream sounded tempting. It wasn't going to happen soon, but I was looking forward to it. They started moving me towards the elevators as Clint arrived. He didn't look much like a scientist, an image he cultivated deliberately. Long, disheveled blonde hair, a fairly sparse beard, a tatty green shirt and jeans. He should be about 6 feet. I'm 5'11", and he's taller than me. Very thin and in his mid-40s. He looked more like a hippie than a PhD in herpetology. God, Glenn, your apartment must be terrible. You keep coming back here to sleep. Yes, I retorted as the nurses giggled. But the rent is expensive, so I have to go back to my rec. What brings you here today? He looked at me and shook his head. PCC could not send anyone today, so I will deal with the follow-up. Do I even need to ask? No, cell phone with flash. He didn't like it. Yes, that's understandable. Was I flown in from Germantown? No, I came by myself. Tenchai is locked in the back of the truck. He's probably calmed down by now. Clint nodded. He knew what I was doing, so he would just do a summary report with my initial medical findings. He will talk to Karen to find out the information he needs. Fine. I know your room number, so I'll check on you later. I'll take the truck back to the zoo and come back to my car. Where are the keys? I pointed to the trousers lying on the chair by the bed. Right front pocket. Clint took the keys from his pocket, then looked at me. You look a little tired, man. Sleep if you are allowed. Dr. West said you'll be here for a couple of days. He waved his hand and headed out of the emergency room. It was a good room, private, with a large bay window that overlooked the bluff and the Mississippi River beyond. I was allowed to have dinner before starting the second vial of antidote. not sure which was more appetizing. I had a TV, but most modern TV programs are designed for people with negative icks. It didn't appeal to me. By mid-evening, I was completely bored. I kept looking at the door, hoping that a certain person would come in to visit me. This, however, did not happen. We did not part on the best terms. My first semi-serious relationship, like most kids, was in high school. She was a freshman and I was a junior. We first met through our church. Her father was a pastor and he loved me, so when we started dating, he didn't mind. When I graduated from high school and began attending the University of Memphis, we began to grow apart. We were still friends and dated occasionally, but I suspected she had a new boyfriend at Millington High. This didn't surprise me. She invited me to her 18th birthday. Of course, I agreed. At this holiday, I met her new boyfriend, Jimmy. He was a pretty nice guy, and they seemed like a nice couple, so I congratulated him and gave Vicky a goodbye kiss. Vicky invited her best friend, a girl named Linda, whom I had seen several times. At this party, Linda asked if she could bring her friend, and Vicky agreed. This friend was a small, slender blonde. I saw her sitting in the corner for the first hour or two, then I asked Vicky about her. "Oh, this is Carla. She is Linda's friend. Nobody here really knows her, and she's the oldest at this party." This annoyed me a little, so I asked, "Well, do you mind if I ask her to dance? She looks lonely." Vicky smiled at me. "Of course not. Then I won't feel so bad dancing with Jimmy. Go introduce yourself. I think you'll like her." Carla was happy that someone asked her to dance, and we immediately started talking. Soon we were sitting in the corner together, laughing our heads off. It was probably during our third or fourth dance that I heard Vicky say, "Oh my God," at Glenn Carl's. I heard giggling and then Linda's voice, "No, Carla Glenn's." I'm not sure what really happened, but I think Linda was right. In any case, we got along great. We started spending a lot of time together. Carla and I dated throughout my time at the University of Memphis. In my third year, I proposed to her and she agreed. We thought we would wait until I finished my studies and then get married. When I moved to Murfreesboro to attend Middle Tennessee State University for my master's degree, she moved to Jackson to qualify as a teacher. After 2 years at MTS, I returned to Millington. Carla was already teaching at Millington High School. We immediately resumed our relationship, but something was wrong. She seemed nervous most of the time, although she denied it. There were a couple of times when I asked her out on a Friday, and she said she had other commitments with her family. It didn't sound particularly unusual. We still had our personal lives, and I had no doubt that she had family responsibilities. But this happened too often. Then I realized two disturbing things. First of all, she never invited me to her home, except when her parents and 2 sisters were away. Secondly, these family obligations had an alarming regularity every second or third Friday. I waited to see if the next conflict would match this pattern, and so it happened. So the following Friday, we went on a date together. The following week, I invited her to dinner on Thursday night. We had just sat down with cups of coffee and menus when I asked if she would be free the next evening. I had tickets to the concert. As I expected, she said no, she has family obligations. I put the menu aside and pushed away my coffee cup. When I looked at her again, she was looking down. She didn't want to look at me. Then I dropped the bomb. "What's his name?" She looked up in shock. Her beautiful green eyes seemed dark with worry and her lips trembled. "I'm not an idiot, Carla. I noticed a pattern. I also noticed that you never introduced me to your parents. They don't know you're engaged, do they?" She lowered her head again and shook her head. "Did not think. What's his name again?" Her voice was a frightened whisper. "Phil," she admitted. I nodded, taking a cup of coffee. After a long sip, I looked at her again. "Start talking, and it better be something good." She sighed, looking like she was holding back tears. I wasn't impressed. "My mother chose it for me about 3 years ago, when you were still studying at MSU. He was a medical student. He graduated from medical school last year, and began his internship at Methodist Hospital. So you've been engaged for almost 3 years, and you're still dating another guy? Yes. I crossed my arms over my chest, biting my bottom lip to control the anger that was beginning to form. Raising your voice or getting angry won't solve anything. Okay, I told her, here's what you do. Tomorrow you will tell him that you are engaged and you will break off your relationship with him. We'll meet here on Saturday at 7. You either tell me we're still engaged or give me back the ring. By the way, why didn't your parents notice the ring? Do you take it off every time you come home? She nodded without looking up. I felt absolutely disgusted. I didn't know how to react, and I didn't want to say something that I would truly regret. Standing up, I concluded, "See you Saturday." Then I left. The moment I saw her on Saturday, I knew we were done. She was already crying. I ordered coffee and sat down. "What's happened?" She hesitated, then began to explain. When I arrived, my mother was with him. As soon as I sat down, he proposed to me. I took a deep breath, slowly releasing it. "And you agreed?" "No," she objected. "I didn't have a chance to say anything. My mother said, of course she'll marry you, and he put the ring on my finger." I shook my head as I picked up my cup of coffee. After a long sip, I asked, "So, this is an arranged marriage, and you go for it?" I looked at her hand. There was no ring. "Where is the ring? You didn't have the courage to show it to me, just like you didn't have the courage to show mine to your parents." She flinched at this, turning red with embarrassment. "What can I do? She's my mother." "How old are you, Carla?" 23, she replied. "You're an adult, or at least you should be. Marriage is your choice, not your mother's." "Glenn, please," she begged. "I didn't have a chance." "Nonsense. You had 3 years of chances. You just didn't have the courage to use them. Where is my ring?" She reached into her purse, tears now streaming down her cheeks. I was still not impressed. She handed me the ring. "Glenn, I love you." "Yes, you love me, but you're planning to marry another man." I looked at the ring and suddenly felt very nauseous. I put it back on the table. "Leave him alone. I don't need it." Her eyes widened and she looked at me. Tears began to flow even more. "That's enough, Carla. Nobody wants to hear you cry, especially me. Nobody here cares, including me." "Glenn, please don't do this to me," she begged. "What should I do with you? You yourself said yes to another man. I should be the one who cries." I have to admit that I didn't feel like crying. I felt more like vomiting. "You know, Carla, I have a proposal for you." "Which?" "Don't marry Phil." "What do you want me to do?" "Marry your damn mother." I stopped and took a deep breath. "Well, I guess I should congratulate you." She looked up, unsure whether to thank me or not. It's probably a good thing she hesitated. "What are you congratulating me on?" "With the destruction of 2 lives. You did a great job." "What do you mean?" she sobbed. "Whose lives have I ruined?" "Yours and mine. Thank you. If you ever grow up, don't bother looking for me." She was still crying when I left. Clint returned the next day. He smiled from ear to ear. This was very unusual for him, so it immediately piqued my curiosity. "What makes you so happy?" I asked. He sat down, still smiling. "We won the tender," he announced. I almost jumped out of bed until the Roman 4 stopped me. "Did we get Sonny?" "Yes, they will move it next month." Sonny, better known as the Sun King, was a yellow phase cobra currently residing in India. We've been in a bidding war with several other zoos for about 4 months now. As the price rose, smaller zoos dropped out of the competition. By last month, it was just us, Philadelphia and Denver. Apparently, Clint's last bid even won over these 2 cities. "How much did we pay for it?" 58. "Ugh," I sighed. $58,000 is the majority of our quarterly budget. Are you sure he's worth it?" Clint laughed. 18-foot yellow phase. What do you think? He will be a huge attraction. We will return the money within a year. Yes, I agreed, but will the board members criticize us for this? Who cares, he answered. Clint wasn't particularly fond of the board, but that might have been a little over the top. We are still the most profitable in this place, and with Sonny here, it will be much better. They don't want to come into conflict with us. Fine. Are we ready to start work on the enclosure? He nodded. Yes, we're going to use an old double corner block. I have already spoken with Jackson Glass, and they may begin installing high-quality bulletproof glass next week. They said the whole project would take them about 3 days. Damn, boss, this is going to be expensive. Well, the director told me to spend as much as needed to make it big enough and safe enough. This made me laugh. Yes, you could say that security was an issue. King cobras are not aggressive like snakes, but a large cobra released into a reptile area full of screaming, panicking idiots would be a full-blown disaster. Cost was definitely a secondary consideration in this case. Are we going to put Nagger Pin with him? We can try, he shrugged. If we can mate them, we can sell the cubs to other zoos and get even more return on investment. Not a fact, of course. No one has been particularly successful at mating cobras in a zoo setting. Too bright, too noisy. This is true. All snakes are nervous during mating season, so if we wanted to mate any of our reptiles, we had to take them out of the exhibit for a few weeks. We could only do this with species that had at least 2 mating pairs. Will Methodist or Baptist hospitals order the antidote? None of them, he said. The University of Memphis is contacting Miami and Poole to get the O-specific antidote here. We will have it until Sonny arrives. Well, it looks like you're on top. We must be ready for his arrival. Clint looked at me, his smile gone. He took a deep breath, then sighed. You have practical experience with king cobras, don't you? Yes, I worked with them. They are actually much safer to work with than most cobras. They can be a little defensive, but not aggressive. The main problem is that they can be curious, and this can lead to accidents. Curious? He asked. Yes, I replied. They like to know what's going on in their territory, so if they don't feel threatened, they'll explore. We need to keep an eye on them, know where they are. Clint nodded, allowing himself a slight grimace. Fine. Until you teach me or Tammy to work with it, it will be your snake. I don't want a guy working with her yet. Our conversation would have continued, but the door opened and Dr. Pennine West entered. He looked at me and then saw Clint. He smiled and waved. Heard about the Sun King, Clint. Congratulations. Thank you, Doctor. We were very happy about this. When can I bring Junior back here? Depends, he laughed. He looked straight at me. Are you going to take a couple of days off, or are you going straight back to work? Straight to the zoo, I answered honestly. The doctor winced, then nodded. I thought so. You can give it back the day after tomorrow, Clint. Doc, that's enough. I need to get back to work. Glenn, if I could trust you to be reasonable on this matter, I would discharge you tomorrow. But I can't, I don't trust, and I won't. You know this as much as I do. We need to restore your fluid volume and red cell levels to at least normal levels. The day after tomorrow, and if you give me a hard time about it, I'll add another day. Clint began to laugh, smiling at the attending physician. Then he turned to me. You better behave, kid, or you'll never get out of here. He actually left me 1 extra day. They restored my fluid levels, but were unable to bring my red cell levels back to anything close to normal. So I spent the 3rd day with bags of platelets pouring into my arm. Dr. West came in the evening. He looked at the last blood test and said I could leave the next morning. They took out the Roman 4, but he wanted me to rest for the night. He even told the head nurse not to bother me. It was nice. When I returned to the zoo, things weren't going as well as Clint said they would. Jackson Glass worked on the installation, and it was reliable. There was no fear that the glass would break. What bothered me was the condition of the floor. In one corner, it seemed to be rotting. I told Clint he needed to be replaced. He called maintenance, and they came and made a crappy patch. When I told them it couldn't stand, they just ignored me. I returned to my office and sent the report to the director. That same day, he came to visit us. Clint and I took him to the king cobra enclosure and showed him our concerns. He seemed to think it was good enough until I told him it wouldn't last long with a snake that weighed 40 pounds or more. The director looked at me with obvious disbelief. He turned to Clint. "Will the Sun King really weigh 40 pounds? Clint nodded. "Least. Probably significantly more." "How much do you think it will weigh?" asked Dr. Klein. The curator looked at me with a sigh. He looked pretty healthy in the photos and videos they sent us. Nice and tight. I'd say somewhere between 45 and 60. Does that sound right to you, Glenn? "Somewhere in that range," I confirmed. "It won't be easy." Maintenance showed up the next morning with a full crew. They replaced the entire floor, including the underlayment. The Sun King arrived the following month. The enclosure was completely ready, and Nagaroina was already waiting there. They sniffed each other briefly, then went to their corners. Naga simply lay down, and Sunny decided to explore the entire enclosure. He was great. Its color was better than in the photos. It looked like a yellow pencil. Immediately upon arrival, we placed him in a tube and anesthetized him. This allowed us to safely carry out initial measurements. He weighed 53 pounds. Clint was afraid that his 18 feet 214 inches would be just short of the record. We contacted St. Louis and spoke with Dr. Betty Morton, their reptile curator. As Clint suspected, Goliath measured 18 feet 4 inches. Sunny was close, but St. Louis still held the record. Oh well, he'll still be a huge attraction. And Goliath was a brown phase, so perhaps we had a record of sorts. Sunny arrived in early April, mid-spring in Memphis, so he was acclimatized to good weather conditions. By the time it got really hot, he was in a climate-controlled enclosure and completely happy. Revenues rose sharply. During the summer, we averaged about 500 people a day to the reptile area. When kids returned to school in late August, things slowed down. We were able to catch our breath and do some administrative things we had been putting off. As the first week of October approached, Dr. Klein announced that we would have our annual picnic in the middle of the month. It will be at Pine Lake Picnic Grounds in Shelby Forest State Park. Klein called to inform Clint and I that we were strictly prohibited from leaving the picnic area to explore the rattlesnake sanctuary. We were both indignant, but he is the director. The picnic was a lot of fun. Pine Lake has a large picnic area that can accommodate about 300 people if you rent 3 pavilions. We rented. There was no beach area as such, but swimming was not one of the recommended activities here. There are too many snakes and several alligators have appeared in the river over the past few years. Boating was permitted and rentals available. Fishing was popular. There were wide open areas and lots of soft soil with thick grass. It didn't take long for the volleyball nets to be installed. We couldn't always get enough people to play 6-on-6, so 4-on-4 and 2-on-2 were more common. By mid-morning, many of the players began to gather around the grills. Standard picnic food, hot dogs and hamburgers, but there's something special about them when they're cooked over charcoal in the open air. We were going to eat a lot of both today. I wasn't ready to eat yet, so I played a 2-on-2 mixed match. My partner was a girl from accounting, a really cute little brunette named Wanda. She had a reputation as a wild child, but who cares when you're playing volleyball? Halfway through the game, the girl on the other side hit a really nice little putt. Neither of us could reach him, but we both jumped after him anyway. Wanda landed on her back, and I landed on her. I had just started to climb off her, mumbling an apology, when she put her arm around my back and kissed me. She tasted great, and I hadn't been around a girl like this in a long time. I returned the kiss with pleasure. We were still in the kiss when we heard laughter and a loud male voice. "Okay, Morris, either get off her or find a room." I looked up to see the director looking at us and a circle of people standing around grinning, laughing, giggling, or outright laughing. "Hey, Dr. Klein, there don't seem to be any rooms here. What should we do?" He looked at me with an exaggerated frown, but it was obvious that he was trying not to laugh. Get off the ground and get back to your volleyball game. Best of all, why don't you both grab a hot dog or a burger and sit where we can see you? I stood up, extending my hand to Wanda and lifting her up. She looked at the director with a cheeky smile, then turned, put her arms around my neck, and kissed me passionately again. The laughter got a little louder. Watson, go to the grills and get something to eat. We're not making a movie for adults here. Let's move. Wanda took my hand and we headed to dinner. Wanda spent that night with me, and the next night, and the night after that. She was a real wild child. The age difference was a small problem, but at 28, I was not old yet. Plus, like I said earlier, she tasted great, and I don't just mean her lips. 3 weeks later, she moved in with me. Clint warned me about it, telling me not to go too deep. I just shrugged. I'm lonely, boss. She's great and fun to be around. I will risk. He simply shook his head. Okay, but you were warned. I should have listened to him. About a week later, he walked into my office with a curious frown on his face. I just looked at him as he sat down on the other side of my desk. Do you know the security officer at the naval station? I saw it a couple of times. I wouldn't say I know. Why? Do you consider him reliable? It was a strange question. I saw Commander Gerald several times. I never really thought about it. The guy was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. Couldn't be too unreliable. Additionally, as the station's security officer, he had to undergo a special type of psychological evaluation and several rigorous personality and life tests. Yes, I would say it is reliable. As reliable as it gets, I replied. Why? What happened? He just called. He says he has a snake in his backyard. This caught my attention. We saw a lot of strange things in our work, but cobras were not a common sight in Tennessee. When did it happen? Just now. He said he was going to call the police, but he thought we knew better what to do about it. It made sense. I bit my lower lip, nodding. Did he describe what he saw? Not really. General size and color, but no pattern. If it really is a cobra, it looks like an Indian cobra, not an Egyptian one. Fine. Do you want me to check? Yes. Get a truck and take a guy with you. It will be a good experience for him. And take your weapon with you. I have carried a weapon when we had to deal with a dangerous snake in a potentially dangerous situation, such as on the street. I had a license to do so and had to attend safety classes, gun law classes, and marksmanship training every 6 months or so. My gun was a small Bersath Thunder 380, basically a shortened 9mm. Quite a small caliber, but good enough for what I did with it. I didn't use snake ammo because it quickly ruins the barrel. Besides, I was a good shooter. The guy was Jeff Washington, or Jefferson for short. If his parents were trying to make a joke, it wouldn't be funny. Jeff hated his full name. He was 22 years old, African-American, studying zoology at the University of Memphis like me. He took this semester off to do an internship with us. No matter what job we gave him, he just did it. This was a good attitude, since working at a zoo is not always glamorous. We checked out the equipment in the truck and hit the road. Have you ever used a snake loop? I asked. He nodded. Repeatedly, I'm better with a grappling hook. I told him what we were going for, and his eyes got wider. Are you serious, dude? That's what Clint said. Have you ever worked with a wild cobra? No. This is beyond my experience. I'm not sure that's my responsibility. This made me laugh, and I turned to him with an approving smile. Okay, let's call it odged. You will control the loop and hook. I'll hold the bucket. Are you ready for this? Certainly. The trip to the commander's house took a little over half an hour. He lived in an affluent suburb northwest of Memphis. His house was at the end of a large residential area on a cul-de-sac. We arrived to find a police car from Raleigh and 2 DNR patrols. It's good to see you guys, the officer smiled. Ann Harrison, this is a little above my level. Have you seen him? I asked. Yes, she confirmed. He is there, doesn't want to move. He just wants to be left alone. It's normal, I assured her. Cobras are territorial and defensive. This one must be very nervous. Nothing in this zone will seem natural to her. I looked to my right and accepted the bucket Jeff handed me. It was quite large, with a snap-on lid. He had rods in his hands. "Are you ready?" I asked. He simply nodded. "Okay, officer, lead us." She led us around the house. As we approached the backyard, we saw the rangers. They stood on both sides of the yard, making sure no one came near. She pointed to the right, and we followed her into the grass. After walking about 20 yards, she stopped, holding out her hand to stop us. "Over there," she said, pointing to a dark figure basking in the warm sun. I pulled a coin out of my pocket and threw it at the figure. Immediately, a long, cylindrical shape rose from the grass. The snake turned to us, hissed, and straightened its hood. "Jesus," Jeff whispered. "What do you think?" I asked him. He thought for a moment, studying the animal. His lips were pursed, and he nodded. "Looks like Naja Naja. The head is too small for Hage. About 4.5 feet. A little thin, but there is a bulge at the bottom. I may have found a rodent here in the yard." I crossed my arms over my chest, looking at the wary animal. It didn't look angry, just very interested in what was happening. Jeff's observations were spot on. I think he was right. "Agree. I wonder how she got here." Turning to the policeman, I said, "We'll try to catch her now. If one of us gets bitten, just stand nearby. If one of us falls, shoot." She looked at me with a serious look, then took out a gun. "Be careful. You can count on it. Okay, Jeff? I'll distract her. You throw a noose." Everything went like clockwork. The snake turned to watch me. Jeff placed the noose over her head, tightening it at the base of her neck. Before the cobra could react, he was already holding it by the middle of its body with a hook. He let go of the noose and headed towards the bucket. I stood back while he lowered the animal into the bucket, then walked over to place and secure the lid. The snake did not resist, curling up into a tight ball at the bottom of the bucket. I looked at Jeff and gave him a thumbs up. He just smiled at me. "Wow," the officer said, putting her weapon away. "It was something. Does it always go this smoothly?" "Not always," answered another voice. I looked up as LT. Davis from the DNR extended his hand. "Good to see you, Glenn. Who is your assistant?" Introducing the couple, I said, "Jeff Washington, this is Lieutenant Davis from the Department of Natural Resources. You'll probably work with him sometimes. He works at a rattlesnake sanctuary." The pair shook hands as the second ranger joined us. "This is Mike Dennis," Davis told us. "He also works at the reserve." We were all talking about the cobra when Commander Geralt came out into the yard. A round of introductions followed, after which he turned to me. "What was it? Was it really a cobra?" "Yes," I confirmed. "Indian cobra. Glad you left her. These snakes are not aggressive, but their bite is a real disaster." "What is she doing in Tennessee?" Lieutenant Davis pointed to the rising backyard, which dropped down almost 50 yards. It was significantly higher than the ground we were now standing on. "On the other side of this hill," he said, "is the Raleigh Fraser Shopping Center. There's a Pier 1 import store there. I'm willing to bet that if we go there, we'll find a box with damaged sides or bottom." "Has this happened before?" asked a Raleigh police officer. Davis nodded. "A couple of times. You can't blame the store owners because their suppliers are careless, but we can't allow dangerous animals to get in here. Last year, it was a mongoose." "Oh yes," I smiled. "I remember that. We still have it." "Are mongooses dangerous?" asked the officer. "Mongoose is singular and plural," I laughed. "They bite, although they are not particularly aggressive. They are relatives of the cat family, but they are not pets. Too unpredictable. Their bite can lead to serious infections, especially rabies. There have been cases of fatal bites." "Does that make them so dangerous?" asked Commander Geralt. "The real danger is the threat to the environment. They have no natural enemies here, although I think hawks and owls might try. The problem is that they have a huge appetite, and their favorite food is snakes. This may sound good on the surface, but if they kill off too many of our native snakes, the rodent population will skyrocket. Then the vector of diseases will get out of control. If anyone ever loses a pregnant female, we'll be in trouble. Well, if this happens again, especially with a snake, we will be forced to revoke their business license. It's too dangerous. The commander invited us inside for a cup of coffee, but Jeff and I had to decline. We needed to return the cobra to the zoo. We locked the snake in the back of the truck. I tossed the keys to Jeff and climbed into the passenger seat. He looked at me. "I'll write a report," I told him. "You've already done enough on this matter. Great job, Jeff." I was driving to work a couple of weeks later when my phone rang. Reaching the display on the center panel, I pressed the phone button and answered. "Good morning, Dr. Klein." "What happened, sir?" "Good morning, Glenn," came the reply. "How do you feel today?" "Excellent, sir. And you?" "Fine. How far are you now?" "Probably 20 minutes if traffic doesn't change." "Fine. Can you come into my office right away? I have a very busy schedule today, and I need to talk to you." "Is there something wrong?" "We'll talk about this when you arrive. The coffee will be fresh and hot." I laughed. Everyone at the zoo knew I was a caffeine addict. A good cup of coffee in the morning is something I really enjoyed. "Thank you, sir. I will be right back." The secretary smiled as I entered the director's office. "Good morning, Dr. Morris. The director is waiting for you. Come on in." "Thank you, Norma, but just Glenn, please. I'm not a doctor of science." "Fine." She smiled again, but didn't say anything. I knocked on the door to the inner office. "Come in, Glenn," a voice said from inside. "The coffee is hot and ready." Indeed, he was. Norma even remembered how much I love it. A teaspoon of sugar, a little cream. He was amazing. I sat down with a smile. Dr. Klein looked at me with a somewhat concerned expression on his face. This immediately piqued my curiosity. "How are you feeling, Glenn? I mean, you really do. Be honest with me." I shrugged. I felt fine. "Yes, sir. Minor headaches, but I've had this for years. What's happening?" He took a sip of his coffee before answering. "We have a lot of sick people here. I think it's just some kind of illness or something to worry about." "Have you spoken to the CDC recently?" "Yesterday. They said nothing was going on, that they knew, but they wanted us to keep an eye on it and let us know if it got worse." I nodded, thinking about my circle of acquaintances. Several of them were sick. Mild symptoms, but enough to arouse curiosity. "Yes, Wanda was sick and Clint didn't look very well. Are we having some kind of internal epidemic here?" "I don't think so, but it's something to keep an eye on. Glad you noticed about Clint. This is what I want to talk to you about." He took another sip of his coffee, then continued. "Clint's diabetes is getting worse. I wish it was closer to home, just in case. Are you ready to travel?" "Yes, sir," I assured him. "I love traveling. What do you want me to do?" "I'd like you to take over P&T. It's too much travel for Clint right now. I want to take some of the load off him. You're interested?" P&T, purchasing and transfer. This caught my attention. It wasn't exactly a promotion and didn't include a pay increase, but it was a big career move if I was going to stay in this field. It was a good opportunity and something I would have enjoyed. "Absolutely, sir. I'll like it." A relieved smile crossed his lips, and he nodded. "Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it. I'll go through the paperwork this morning and give you permission through accounting and finance. You might have to go to Nashville soon." "Is something going on in Nashville?" His smile widened. "John Verdon called me last week. They might have the Jameson you're looking for. Said I could send you there to talk to Tommy Ross and try to arrange something. Do you want to go?" Jameson's mamba. I've wanted one since I started working at the zoo. The beautiful snake is by far the most attractive of the mambas. They were an intermediate link between black and green mambas, both genetically and geographically. Their venom was of medium strength, but still powerful enough to kill. They were dangerous animals. They weren't exactly rare, but there weren't many available. They were expensive, and we just blew our budget on the Sun King. Still, this opportunity could not be missed. Yes, sir, I will go. Do you want to arrange a meeting, or should I call Tommy? Why don't you call Ross and arrange it? It will be easier. Without intermediaries. Just tell Clint when you'll be gone, and for how long. I'll take care of it, sir. I've wanted Jameson for a long time. I know. Don't overdo it, but you have my permission to be persistent. Bring him, and thanks for taking some of the pressure off Clint. My pleasure, sir. Fine. I have to go. Let me know if you need anything else. Before I go, can I ask you a question, sir? Certainly. What's on your mind? I had a hard time sitting still, but that probably needed to be addressed before it got awkward. Sir, many of the staff call me Dr. Says Morris. I don't have a PhD, and that makes me nervous. Do you think maybe a memo to employees will remind them that I only have a master's degree? Klein laughed and shook his head. It doesn't bother me at all. I even heard some visitors call you doctor. Don't worry, Glenn. I plan to send you to Knoxville in the next year or two for your PhD. If they get a little ahead of themselves, that's okay with me, doctor. Wanda was sick, and I soon found out why. It had nothing to do with what was spreading to everyone else. I returned home after her visit to the doctor. She was glowing, jumping around the house with a huge smile on her face. Guess what? She said as soon as she saw me. She threw herself into my arms, hugged me tightly, and kissed me passionately. After I recovered from her greeting, I admitted, I don't know. What? Her smile grew even wider, and she kissed me again. We're going to have a baby, she announced. You are pregnant? I asked. Is it true? Yeah, about 10 weeks or so. Do they know if it's a boy or a girl? Not yet, she smiled. Maybe next month when they do the ultrasound. Well, I smiled, hiding my inner excitement. Do you want to eat today? Yes, this time I feel good. Then I'll take you to dinner. Let's celebrate. She chose an Italian restaurant, which suited me just fine. She ordered lasagna, and I took a dish of ravioli. She chatted happily while we ate, and I mostly sat and listened. I didn't have anything to say at the moment, and I didn't want to take away her holiday. It was her day. After dinner, when we were driving home, my mood began to deteriorate. She didn't notice that it was good. I didn't want to talk about it. In fact, I didn't want to talk about anything. She went crazy in bed that night, but I seemed to be a little restrained. Again, she didn't notice, which was for the best. When we finished, she quickly fell asleep. I'm not. I called Tommy the next morning. Hi, Tom. Glenn Morris from Memphis. How are you? Hi, Glenn. Everything is fine. The boss said we have something you might be interested in. Oh, yes, I confirmed. We need Jameson. I'm calling to find out how much you want it. There was a delay on the other end. Tommy then replied, almost apologetically, Yes, I have Jameson, but it will be quite expensive. I understand that you almost went broke on the Sun King. I took a deep breath. The possibility of this snake escaping was unpleasant. Yes, I admitted, we are in a difficult situation right now. Can you wait until the start of the next quarter? I can't promise that, but I may have a better offer. Yes? Which? Right now we have a shortage of exotic snakes. I understand that you have quite a lot of them. I pursed my lips. I guess it depends on your definition of quite a lot. We have 4 Gaboon vipers, 3 Rousel vipers, and 3 Rhino vipers. There was silence on the other end of the line, but I could hear breathing and the creak of a pencil. Tommy then asked, Do your vipers have mates? I wouldn't say they're mated, but we have 2 males and 2 females. Fine. How about a couple of vipers on Jameson? I thought about it for a minute. We will still need a new enclosure, but we currently have 4 or 5 available. Plus, it will be 2 less mouths to feed in exchange for 1. Yes, I replied. We can do it. Call me next week the day before you want to come. We'll prepare the viper cage and get Jimmy ready for transport. Wait a minute, I chuckled. You named Jameson's Mamba Jimmy? Hey, don't blame me. This is the staff's idea. Plus, I bet your male viper is called Gabby. No, I warned him. Gabriel. HM. That's a cool name for... Wait a minute. Do not tell me. The female is called... Yes, Gabriella. Tommy started laughing. We'll talk next week, Glenn. By the beginning of the next week, I had caught some virus that was going around the zoo. The said there wasn't much that could be done, just rest, fluids, and aspirin or acetaminophen. Besides, no cold will make me miss Jameson. From Memphis to Nashville is about 4.5 hours. I told Wanda I would be back very late tomorrow or the next morning, depending on what happened in Nashville. I left Memphis at 3 a.m. This allowed me to leave Memphis without traffic and arrive in Nashville right after the zoo opened. Tom and I had spoken the day before, so all the paperwork was done. All we could do was sign copies of each other and physically exchange snakes. I was on the road until 10. I had to drive carefully on the way back, so I got back to the zoo a little after 3. Clint said I looked terrible. He took control of Jimmy, signed the transfer log, and told me to go home and take a couple of days off. I almost wish he had done that. The door had just slammed shut when I heard a noise from the hallway. A couple of steps in that direction told me they were coming from the bedroom. Moans, wheezes, and giggles clearly spoke of what was happening. I returned to the living room and sat down in an easy chair opposite the sofa. My mind was in a fog due to the cold, but I still couldn't figure out why the hell she brought him to my house to have fun instead of going to see him. Unless, of course, he is married. I thought I'd find out soon. A series of loud moans and a sharp intake of breath told them they were done. Now all that was left was to wait. About 20 minutes later, a well-built young man entered the living room. He was wearing jeans, but what caught my attention was a dark blue t-shirt with a gold shield. His attention was drawn to my fingers tapping the butt of the 380. I pointed to the sofa, and he sat down. A minute or two later, Wanda came out of the bedroom wearing a bikini and a t-shirt. She froze when she saw me. I pointed to the sofa again, and she sat down next to her lover. "Okay," I began. "Are you a firefighter?" "Yes, sir," he replied. However, his attention remained focused on the pistol. "What is your name?" I asked. "Mark, sir," he replied nervously. I shook my head, exhaling a long sigh. I looked at Wanda for a long time, then back at Mark. "Relax, Mark. If someone gets shot, it won't be you." I'm not sure how he reacted to this, but Wanda turned pale. "This is your child?" I asked. "Glenn," Wanda protested. "This is your child. You know it. Why do you think it's not yours?" "Shut up, Wanda," I replied sharply. "I have been infertile since I was 18. I can't conceive a child. Now keep your mouth shut. If I need something from you, I'll ask." The fireman could not contain his curiosity. "What happened, sir?" he asked quietly. "Severe infection. I had a fever for several days. When it was all over, the doctors told me I was infertile." "I'm sorry, sir," he said. "No need. It's an excellent form of contraception." He chuckled, then looked at me with concern. "Sorry, sir." "Why?" I grinned. "It's funny. Still working, just empty cartridges." He looked like he was afraid to laugh, so he just gave me a thin smile and shook his head. "Now, Mark, one more time. Is this your child?" "I guess so, sir," he replied. Now it was my turn to grin. I found it ironic that Mark now knew it wasn't my baby, but could only answer probably when asked if it was his. I doubt Wanda took the hint. This was probably beyond her level. It took me a few minutes to collect my thoughts. I couldn't help but notice how he was reaching for her hand. She gave it to him, but looked at me with eyes full of fear. Finally, I asked, "Do you love her?" "Yes, sir," he replied immediately. Wanda, do you love him? Yes, she said in a nervous whisper. Fine. Mark, take her back to the bedroom. She has 2 suitcases in her closet. Help her collect them. When you leave, take her with you. You can come back for the rest of the things this weekend while I'm at home. Wanda, I need your house key. Tomorrow I'll change the locks. Go. It took them some time to pack their bags. I doubt any of them were fully functional at this point. However, about 45 minutes later, they returned to the living room, Mark carrying his suitcases. He put them on the floor and looked at me. Wanda put the key on the table. I walked up to him and extended my hand. He took it with uncertainty. Congratulations, Mark. Wish you luck. Then I turned to Wanda. You have a good man, I told her. Try to be worthy of him. She tried to hug me, but I didn't allow her. See you at the weekend. After they left, I tried to watch TV, but I couldn't get interested in anything. I locked the house and headed to a small bar that I visited occasionally. The bartender waved as I sat down and walked over to me at the end of the bar. Hi, Glenn. As usual. I nodded. Chivas with ice. Double. Nick went to the shelf and took out a bottle of expensive scotch. Pouring the drink, he returned to me. This is unusual for you. Is the snake business going badly? No, I pointed out, taking a sip and letting the delicious drink burn my throat. The stray snakes are fine. We received our Jameson Mamba this morning. She's beautiful. Nashville allowed us to trade, so we didn't have to buy it. That sounds good, agreed the bartender. So why the heavy blow? I snorted. 2-legged snakes are a different story. He took a deep breath and his eyes widened. That doesn't sound good. I think I'll just leave it alone. Yes, I agreed. That's probably a good idea. Thank you. I was sitting at the bar, sipping a drink and watching a football match on TV. It didn't take long for me to realize that drinking on top of how I was feeling was a bad idea. After a good morning, the day had turned sour, and it was about to get even worse. Chivas lasted about 2 hours. When it ended, so did I. I thanked Nick for his understanding and left $20 on the bar. Big tip, yes, but he deserved it. I needed someone to share. I went home when the worst happened. Without warning, my rear view mirror filled with flashing blue lights. I was next to a store, so I pulled over and parked. A police car pulled behind me and blocked me. The female officer came out and approached me. I rolled down the window. When the officer looked inside, she smiled, recognizing me. Good evening, Dr. Morris. Are you okay? I smiled. Perhaps I was lucky. It was Officer Harrison from the Cobra incident. Hi, Officer Harrison, I replied. I'm really not sure. I have some kind of infection, and I think I might be a little drunk. Am I driving while intoxicated? Probably, she warned me. Are you taking any prescription medications with alcohol? No, but I'll probably take an aspirin when I get home. Fine. Come on, let's go inside for a minute. The night clerk at the store was a Pakistani citizen who had just become an American citizen. He was one of the nicest people you could meet. Officer Harrison took the lead. Hi, Rashad. How are you doing tonight? Officer Ann, he smiled. Good to see you. Do you want to have a coffee? That would be nice, she admitted. Can my partner take it too? He's not doing well. The clerk was happy to let us grab coffee, offering donuts or other baked goods if we wanted them. We both took small cups of coffee, but decided against sweets. Rashad, there's a green Honda Accord parked outside. She'll be there all night. Consider it a police confiscation. We'll come back for her tomorrow. Please give this to your replacement in the morning. Dr. Baud Morris is the owner here, and he'll probably be the one to take her. That's good, he agreed. I'll look after her. Teresa will come at 7. I'll tell her. Thank you, Rashad. Anything new with you? Officer Harrison engaged the clerk in a friendly domestic conversation while we were drinking coffee. When we finished, we went back outside. Lock the car. I'll take you home. I looked at her, a little surprised. Aren't you arresting me? Doctor, You are sick, not drunk. You need to take a few days off and just watch TV. You can come back to the car tomorrow. She'll be safe here. Now let's go. Lock the car and get in mine." After doing as she instructed and locking the car, I sat in the front seat of her car and listened as she informed the dispatcher that she was escorting a sick driver home. The vehicle was safe in the parking lot, so a tow truck was not needed. The dispatcher acknowledged her call and assigned her a report number. 15 minutes later, I was home and in bed. I'm lucky. I was out of action for a week. It turned out that it was some kind of viral infection, not quite the flu, but close to it. I was pretty sick, but it was bearable. I probably shouldn't have returned as soon as I did, but I was bored. Clint was concerned, but allowed me back since he had gotten his flu shot and had everyone else in the department do the same. After seeing how I looked, everyone was glad they did it. They put Jimmy in the enclosure next to the Sun King, which was okay for me. They also changed his name to Mason, which I liked better. The first 2 days after returning, I tried to catch up on paperwork. It was a little slow, but we made progress. Early the next week, Clint walked into my office and sat down. "I received an interesting call on Friday afternoon," he told me. He had a thoughtful look that said it was probably important. "Lexington called for you, but I said you still weren't feeling well. They said you would call them back." "Okay," I nodded. "What does Lexington want?" He took a sip of his coffee, biting his bottom lip as he often did. "They are interested in getting one of our Reddicks. I told them the big guy was probably unavailable, but the 22-footer and 14-footer could be in play. Tony said they had a blue and gold tiger snake that they were willing to trade." This caught my attention. Tiger snakes were beautiful animals, and the blue and gold version was top class. They were also the 11th most venomous snake on the planet, measured by venom toxicity. "Are you sure you want something this hot here?" "If you think we can handle it. It will be just the two of us working with her, and we will need to find someone to stockpile the antidote for us. The University of Memphis will probably agree to this." Well, I thought, there is a polyvalent antidote for tiger snakes that is not too expensive. There are too many options to try to make it species-specific. It's still a bit expensive, about $4,000 per ampoule. "How much do you think we need to stock up on?" "At least 20 ampoules. Clint frowned, shaking his head. "It's a little expensive for us right now." "Yes. What else do they have to offer?" "They have a death adder, but this is even worse." "Yes," I agreed, "much worse. This substance costs about $20,000 per ampoule. Maybe I'll just call them and see what can be arranged. I will not agree to anything without your consent." "That sounds good. I'll leave it to you." I called Lexington 3 hours later and made a deal with them. When I discussed it with Clint, he approved of it. I didn't want any of the Australian snakes they were offering. The antidote for these animals was absurdly expensive. We settled for a flying snake, a carpet python, and a rock python instead. None of them were the size of the reticulated python we agreed to trade, our 22-footer, but they rounded out our python collection quite nicely, and we didn't have a flying snake. It was a good deal for both parties. Lexington sent a courier 2 weeks later. They needed a van. A 22-foot reticulated python is quite a load. Not only the length, but also over 400 pounds. It took 3 of us to load his container into the car. The driver assured us that he would have plenty of help when he arrived. He planned to drive all night and deliver it the next day. The snakes he brought were a mixed bag. The flying snake was beautiful, but a little nervous, which was normal for tree snakes. The carpet python was 5-legged, with a very attractive black and gold pattern. The rock python was a 14-foot terrorist. Perhaps that's why they were willing to hand it over. To say she was uncooperative would be a gross understatement. Clint and I were both bitten before we could get her into the enclosure. We were losing the fight when Jeff tased her. "Hey," Clint said sharply, "we don't use those things on reptiles." "Sorry, sir," Jeff responded, but she was completely out of control. "You'll both need stitches." He was right. Our doctors immediately began cleaning and stitching up the wounds. Due to standard zoo protocols, I could not handle the snakes until the stitches were removed. This meant I was once again confined to the office. Well, at least I knew there would always be coffee there. I did paperwork and answered phone calls for about 10 days. Finally, Clint came in early in the afternoon, poured himself a cup of coffee, and sat down. "Are you ready to get out of here for a little while?" he asked. "I'm ready," I grinned. "The stitches haven't been removed yet, so I can't work with reptiles. Do you have something on your mind?" He shrugged. "Well, it's not going back to reptiles, but we're having a science class field trip here. Do you want to look after them for a couple of hours? I'll take over the office." This was normal for me. Anything that got me out of the office was good. I should have known it was too good to be true. I walked down the hallway that led from the office to the back of the king cobra enclosure. Turning the corner to the right and going through the door, I found myself in the main hallway. There were children everywhere looking at the snakes. There were several chaperones with them, most of whom repeatedly warned the children not to knock on the glass. One boy asked a question about Jameson's mamba. When I heard the teacher's voice answering him, I froze. I should have known. Millington High School. "I'm not sure about that," she admitted. "There's Dr. Morris. Why don't you ask him?" A student came up and asked a surprisingly smart technical question about the differences between Jameson's mambas and the black and green mambas. We talked for several minutes. It was obvious that this child was a little ahead of his classmates. Finally, he thanked me and ran off to look at the other snakes. When I looked up, she was standing there. 8 years had passed, but she looked just as beautiful as I remembered. Her eyes were a little darker, probably due to the shadows underneath them. Her usual smile disappeared too, replaced by a shy, nervous one. "Hello, Glenn." "Hi, Carla. Your class." "Yes, this is our best science class." "Yes, the boy you sent to me was quite smart. I think you should go back to them." I started to turn around when she stopped me. "Glenn, please, could we meet for coffee or something?" "Why? What can you tell me?" I saw how she shuddered at these words. She lowered her eyes, and the smile disappeared. "Please, Glenn, just a cup of coffee." "Would Mr. Doctor mind that?" She fought back a sob. I couldn't understand why, but this conversation really upset her. "No, it will not. We are divorced." I'm not sure why I agreed to this, but she still had enough power over me that I wanted to know what happened. "Perkins, tonight, at 7 o'clock. I turned and walked past her into the noise of the reptile house. "Okay, you can't have children. Is that why he divorced you?" Carla shook her head, looking into her cup of coffee. Her voice was still muffled. It was obvious that she did not like this conversation. "That was part of it. He really wanted a child, but I couldn't give him one. Worse, it was all about how bad I felt in bed. I didn't love him, so I couldn't get emotionally involved. It made physical contact difficult, even painful at times, and I think that's what turned him off." "How long were you actually married?" "A little over 5 years. He finally gave in, and that's when his nurse got pregnant. I think he married her last year." "Have any of you struggled with divorce?" "No, we both wanted it. There were no lawyers here." My eyes narrowed slightly. I knew it was easy to get a divorce if neither party disputed it, but how can you get a divorce without a lawyer? This seemed strange to me. "Then how did you get divorced?" Carla took a spoon and stirred her coffee, as if trying to think. She seemed to be trying to overcome unpleasant memories, which I suppose was understandable under the circumstances. "He filed for divorce by mutual consent. We just appeared before a Supreme Court judge. This was in his chambers, not in the courtroom." I guess it made sense. I took the cup and took a long sip. "I take it everything went smoothly." She shrugged. "They would have done it if my mother hadn't decided that she would represent me." As the hearing began, she screamed about adultery and demanded this and that. "Phil's family is very rich. He was a doctor because he wanted to be, not because he wanted doctors in his family." And my mother hoped to take advantage of the family fortune, I added cynically. Quite. The judge finally removed her from the room so we could finish the case. That must have been interesting, I thought. The judge probably had to threaten Mommy with arrest before she would shut her mouth and leave. I chuckled quietly, but stopped myself before Carla got curious. Phil was very understanding and very generous. He told the judge that rather than settle for a court-ordered divorce, he wanted to offer a settlement. He said he would buy me a house, a car, and give me a monthly stipend until I remarried. The judge asked me if this was acceptable. In fact, it was a lot more than what I was asking for, so I simply nodded and then said that I would consider the offer and make a final decision. The trial has ended. About 3 months later, I received the real documents. The meeting went so comfortably that I offered to buy Carla a hamburger. She agreed. While we were quietly chewing our food, an interesting thought occurred to me. Your mom must have really attacked you on the way home. She shook her head. She didn't have that opportunity. Phil drove me home after the hearing. But this was not in our old house. He took me to a new house in Raleigh on Davison Drive. Cute little 3-bedroom ranch. Even if it were fully furnished. He is beautiful. I was a little embarrassed. I think Phil really loved me, but I couldn't get him back. Was he afraid your mom was going to start some kind of scandal? I doubt it, she replied, munching on a French fry. His family can afford more lawyers than his mother. They would drag it out until she couldn't afford it anymore, and they would file a counterclaim. I chuckled again. I was almost starting to like Phil. When we arrived, he handed me 2 sets of keys. 2. Yes, one was intended for the home. The other is for the BMW parked in the driveway. Wow, he may have cheated on my date, perhaps even married her under false pretenses, but he definitely cared about her. I had to give him credit for that. Carla's head dropped, her eyes darkened, and an almost frightened expression appeared on her face. The next time she spoke to me, it was in a nervous and hesitant voice. Glenn, I told my mom that I want to start dating you again. She said she wanted to meet us first. Will you do this, please? I immediately shuddered. I was hoping she was taller than that, but apparently not. Do you still need your mom's permission to date anyone? Should you persuade her to meet me here tonight? She closed her eyes and shook her head. Her shoulders looked like she was shaking. Once again, I was not impressed. Glenn, please. I don't like it either, but she's my mother. Do this for me, just once, please. I finally gave in and agreed to the meeting. She said she would call me and tell me where and when. I was fine with that. When I walked her to the car, she looked like she was waiting for a kiss. She received a handshake in response. I still didn't feel that forgiving. Carla called the next evening. She told me the time and place. It will take a couple of days. That's fine with me. Meanwhile, Principal Klein called me and Clint to a meeting. Millington Middle wants to enter into a mutual support agreement with us. They want us to provide them with instructors for presentations on zoology and herpetology and allow them to bring their classes here for field trips. This is all entry level, of course, but they will probably want each class to be visited once a quarter. The principal said they would do this in their classroom, so it would only be 1 class per grade each quarter. Do you think we can support this? Clint and I looked at each other, mulling over the idea. This might be a good way to get Jeff into the public eye, at least for this quarter, I suggested. Both client and the director nodded. Dr. Klein added an unexpected comment. It's a good idea. I'm thinking about extending his internship. He's doing well. Is he good enough to offer him a real job here? Yes, Clint replied. He has common sense and is patient with animals. He told me that he wants to go to MTS when he graduates from Moscow State University. The director looked at me next. I didn't have anything to add, so I just nodded. Fine. I'll talk to him later this week. I will offer him the opportunity to pursue an internship or accept a full-time position. I'm sure he will let you know what he decides. A few days later, I met up with Carla and Mamzilla. This was from the same Perkins. It didn't take long before it turned into a disaster. My daughter tells me she wants to start dating you again, she began. That's what she told me, I admitted. What exactly does this have to do with you? She's my daughter. She's an adult too, and she has a name. The last time I watched her, it was Carla. You don't like me, do you? Her mother understood. How insightful she is. Not in the slightest, I confirmed. You cost me 8 years of my life. You're not going to do this again. Well, she said, ready to scold the errant suitor, if you're going to have a relationship with my daughter, you're going to have to get a real job. I looked at Carla. Her eyes closed, and she shook her head, dropping her chin to her chest. She knew this wouldn't end well. I'm the assistant curator of reptiles at the Memphis Zoo. What do you call it? Mom snorted, looking down at me. I wondered if she saw anything other than her nose. A boy playing with his favorite snakes. It doesn't impress me. Why don't you come visit me when you have a chance? I have a very friendly python who will be happy to give you a hug. Maybe this will impress you. I stood up and looked at Carla. Her mother was enough for me. Where are you going? She demanded. Away from you, bitch. My eyes turned to Carla. Call me sometime if Mom allows it. How dare you talk to me like that? Very easy. This is right on your level. You must understand this. She started to blush. I was sure it was anger and not embarrassment. And you expect me to let my daughter date you? I don't care what you allow or don't allow. It's Carla's decision, not yours. For me, you can go to hell. I turned and walked out, but squeezed Carla's shoulder as I walked past her. Carla called the next morning while we were both at work. I was still in a bad mood, but I had no choice at work. Phones must be answered. Memphis Zoo, Reptile House. This is Glenn. How can we help? Glenn, can I talk to you for a minute? I have a break between classes. I do not have much time. What do you need? I hissed. You're right, I was still angry. I just want to talk to you. Just the two of us alone. Can we please meet for dinner tonight? Somehow it wasn't particularly interesting. Another confrontation with her mother would likely end any chance of the relationship being repaired. Will she be there? No, just the two of us. Please? How about Danny's on Fraser Boulevard? It was a good place. About halfway between us and far from Mom. Fine. At what time? At 7 o'clock. Can you do it at 8? I have a late meeting. That's good, Glenn. Thank you. See you tonight. I was a little early, so I told the waitress that a young woman would be joining me, and then I ordered a cup of coffee. It gave me time to think, and it was something I needed to do. I needed to step away from Carla. Yes, I had reasons to be irritated, but I was cruel, and there was no reason for this. I was still thinking when I heard her soft voice. Hello. Hi, Carla. Sit down. Coffee. She smiled at me. Yes, please. And thanks. The waitress who brought her to me was standing and waiting, so she immediately brought a coffee pot and another cup. She brought cream and sugar and gave us the menu. Look, I said to Carla, dinner is on me. Glenn, I really need to talk to you. I'm so sorry about what happened. I shook my head. Look at the menu. We'll talk after ordering. It didn't take us long to decide, and our waitress was very attentive. She took our order and went to the kitchen. I think Carla was a little surprised that I ordered a large salad with fried chicken. I'm the one who should be apologizing, I began. I was pretty brutal. I think your mom came down hard on you after I left. Carla chuckled, which surprised me. She tried. She didn't stand a chance. My head tilted as I thought about it. What do you mean? She started telling me how rude and unworthy you are of me. When she started telling me about the only lawyer she knew, it was obvious where she was going. I stood up and told her that she should take your advice. When she asked what I meant, I told her to go to hell. Then I left. We don't communicate much now. Oh, I winced. It probably went down like a lead balloon. Maybe, I don't know. Glenn, I came here to talk about us, not her. I want to be yours again. Can we please start again? My coffee cup rose to my lips as I leaned on the booth seat. This is what I was afraid of when I agreed to this meeting. I didn't know how to control my feelings or where to go next. At this point, perhaps honesty was the best policy. Carla, I still have feelings for you, but I don't know what those feelings are. I gave you my heart and my life, and you stepped on them. Do you really think I can trust you now? She looked at her hands. After a few long breaths, she sighed. I saw the light in her eyes dim. I offended her again, but I didn't know what to do about it. Finally, she looked at me. I know, Glenn. Believe me, I'm sorry. I never stopped loving you. This is one of the reasons why my marriage to Phil fell apart. He knew that I didn't love him. It was gnawing at him. Sex was torture. I just couldn't get carried away. He knew it, and it hurt him. Over time, he really began to hate it. I tried to love him, but I couldn't. I couldn't forget you. It sounded flattering, but also somehow unrealistic. I wasn't going to tell her about Wanda. It would really hurt her. But I didn't see any common ground between us. How to start again? Where to start again? It didn't make sense. However, Carla's sad look, the sadness in her voice, I couldn't ignore them. I still had feelings for her, and they fought to come to the surface. I didn't know if I wanted them again. Okay, I allowed, I will meet with you, but I don't promise anything. I don't know where this will go, if anywhere. Can you accept this? Of course, she sighed. I'll take anything if it means we can get back together. Don't read anything into this. We're not a couple, Carla. I don't know if we will ever be again, but I will guide you. What do you want to do and how often? She didn't have to answer right away as our food arrived. As we ate, the conversation became easier. By the time we ordered dessert, we were actually laughing. It didn't last long. As we walked out into the parking lot, she reached out to hug me. I retreated. Again, I offered her my hand. I saw the pain in her eyes, but I just wasn't ready for anything more. We shook hands and I left. We started meeting the following week, usually on Friday or Saturday evenings. Simple things, dinner, maybe a movie. She loved window shopping, so I took her to the Raleigh Frazier Mall and just walked around and window shopped for 3 hours. We ate at the food court. She really enjoyed this evening. Things always went wrong in the end. I was picking her up, so I didn't take her back to the car. I took her home and walked her to the door. I still didn't want any physical intimacy, so all I could offer her was a handshake. Not sure when it was, maybe our 6th or 7th date. When we reached her door, I offered my hand again. She looked at it, looked at me, then turned to the door and burst into tears. Her sobs were too much for me. I held out my hands and placed them on her shoulders just below the elbows. Please, kitten, I begged. Please don't cry. This was a serious mistake. Kitten was my pet name for her when we were together in the beginning. She turned around sharply and clung to me, crying even more. I didn't know what to do. I lifted her chin to meet her gaze. Please don't cry, I repeated. Her lips were on mine before I could move. It stunned me. They were just as soft and sweet as they had been 8 years ago. I pulled her close to me tightly, our lips pressed tightly together. Before I knew what was happening, our tongues started dancing. I was completely amazed. She took possession of me at that moment. When she opened the door and took my hand, I followed her. In the first years of our marriage, there was no sex. She firmly said that she wanted to save herself for her wedding night. It was painful, but I could respect it. It was actually quite nice. That was one of the reasons her marriage to Phil hurt me so much. The thought of giving herself to another man was painful. Now, however, there were no such considerations. I took her again and again that night. It wasn't aggressive, and there was little variety. It was just two people desperately in love with each other. She wrapped her arms and legs around me, and we stayed like that for hours. As we rolled away from each other, exhausted, she pressed herself against me and began running her fingers over my chest. Glenn, she asked quietly, are we a couple again? I couldn't help myself. I started laughing, quietly at first, but it soon grew into hysterical laughter that made my whole body shake. After a minute or two, my sides and legs started to hurt. Finally, I was able to choke out, "So it seems. I think I'll have to buy you a new ring." She rose up onto her elbow, her smile disappeared, and she looked at me seriously. "I don't want a new ring," she admitted. This was a cruel surprise. After all the begging, after what we just did, she was the one who didn't want to renew our relationship. I didn't know how to react to this. Carla turned her back to me, turning on the bed to face the wall. I heard the drawer of her nightstand opening and closing. She turned to me again, holding out her hand. There was a tiny wedding ring in her fingers. She handed it to me. "Will you put it on again, please?" I stared at the ring. A small diamond flanked by two smaller star sapphires. Taking it from her fingers, I looked at her. "Are you still holding it, after all this time?" "Yes," she smiled. "It was my only way to hold on to you. I couldn't let him go." When I put the ring back on her finger, I started crying. I pulled her to me, hugging her tightly. "Carla, forgive me for my cruelty. I love you, kitten. Will you still marry me?" I felt her nod as she pressed herself closer to me. Her arms hugged me tightly. "Of course I will, my love. I've waited so long to hear those words again. Thank you, my love. Thank you so much." She started crying quietly, and I just held her. That's how we fell asleep that night. Mamzilla has finally gone overboard. She learned that I would be giving a presentation to Carla's 8th graders at Millington Middle School. Apparently, she thought this was the perfect opportunity to give us a big scandal. To her surprise, Jeff was making the presentation, not me. Unfortunately, a number of rules prohibited us from bringing potentially dangerous snakes into schools, so the lesson was taught using a PowerPoint presentation. It was sad. I would love to introduce Mommy to Mason, up close and personal. Doesn't matter. She took care of it herself. Mom burst into the assembly hall, screaming at the top of her lungs and scaring the children to death. I don't know what she expected, but the school police officer on duty was not impressed. When she refused to calm down, he arrested her and charged her with criminal trespass. When she resisted, he added a charge of resisting arrest. Everything would be fine if she just shut up during the hearing. But not Mommy. She wasn't that smart. A judge issued a restraining order banning her from coming within 200 yards of Millington High School. He sentenced her to 50 hours of community service for resisting arrest. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It would have been fine if she had left it at that. But no, Mommy had to tell the judge how important she was and that his sentence was wrong and too harsh. When she started screaming, the judge added 60 days in county jail for contempt of court. Carla and I were present for the entire circus. Carla might have been a little upset about the outcome of the hearing, but I barely made it out of the courthouse before bursting out laughing. The mutual support agreement worked great. Jeff, Clint, and I took turns giving presentations. It turned out that each of us enjoyed working with different grade levels. Clint liked the 6th graders, Jeff liked the 7th graders, and I, of course, liked Carla's 8th graders. Each class level came once a quarter. We set it up so that they would encounter snakes once, turtles once, and lizards once. Of course, there was a little overlap because everything was in the reptile house. It was, however, a large building, and we did not have too many strangers. I spoke to the director and was given permission to take a week off early next September, while Carla negotiated a week off at the same time. It was a great wedding. I am not a religious person, although I believe that there must be some kind of higher intelligence somewhere. All these fantastic reptiles could not have arisen by chance. Carla belonged to some non-dominant evangelical church community, whatever that means. Her pastor agreed to marry us. Mommy was not invited, so her paternal uncle gave her away. Jeff was my best man. It was fun. Mark and Wanda were there. Their 3-year-old son, Marshall, looked exactly like Mark, so I guess the probably turned out to be a yes. Mark kissed Carla on the cheek while I exchanged a friendly kiss with Wanda. It was nice to see that they were a happy family. The same thing happened on Carla's side. She invited Phil and his wife Marcia. Marcia was a stunning red-haired woman, much more beautiful than Carla or Wanda. I could understand why Phil fell in love with her. They had a beautiful little girl with them. It was interesting to watch them approach us. Phil approached me nervously, holding out his hand. I shook it tightly. "Phil," I said, "thanks for taking care of her. I'm glad to see that you and Marcia have a beautiful family." He answered with a surprised but happy smile. He was going to just hug Carla, but she wouldn't let him. Instead, she kissed him tenderly on the lips. It took him by surprise, but he was pleased. Marcia and I hugged, and she smiled brightly at her husband. She allowed me to throw Caroline into the air several times, which delighted the little lady. When I returned her to the floor, Marcia was smiling. "We wish you and Carla all the best," she said. "If you don't mind, we will always be your friends." We had a great reception. Jeff was surprised when I asked him to be my best man, but he agreed. He was a little nervous putting the garter on Carla, but she just smiled at him. He was very respectful and just wore it just above the knee. This made it easier for me to remove it later. The dancing went on and on. Clint was there, and so was Dr. Klein. Jeff danced with Carla, and I danced with Wanda once and Marcia once. I felt much more comfortable dancing with Anna Harrison. Lt. Davis also showed up, but he ended up in the corner with Jeff and Clint. Carla wouldn't let me go near them. I think half the staff at Millington High School showed up. Carla introduced me to most of them, but there were so many people at the reception that the names started to blur together. Soon I was just smiling and saying hi without hearing most of what was said. Carla loved the mountains, so I took her to Gatlinburg for our honeymoon. It was a wonderful trip. The leaves had not yet started to change color, but the scenery was still magnificent. She liked country music, and the city of Pigeon Forge was full of clubs with famous performers. We spent the day at Dollywood, although we avoided the more extreme rides. Our wild rides took place at night. All the towns in the area had excellent restaurants. Mark and Phil's families became friends. With our contacts both at school and at the zoo, we had a wonderful circle of acquaintances. Our life together was wonderful. What happened to Memzilla? Who cares anyway? Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.